Hi, this is Victor. I'm here with an unusual video for me, and I'm going to review a couple of builds for the Dark Eldar after being reviewed the Codex. So after the last video, when I reviewed the heavy support, I've been asked how I will do my army based on the review, and here is some points or a couple of armies that I see. I have to say, the first army is based on the miniatures I have. So the first army, I just use miniatures that I already have and I don't purchase any miniature. So you will see that this army will have some gaps. The second build is how I will progress this army for future, or how I see this army can be progressed. And using this build maybe as the base, what can be a possible evolution, and all will depend, of course, in the learnings we have once we start playing with that armies. So this is a theoretical exercise, and I also want to share with you how building an army you want to cover different points and different aspects of your army, and you want to have a base plan for your army, a function for each unit in your army, and also a purpose. So I try to put all the units that have some purpose on the battlefield. So let's start first with an army that is based on the miniatures I have available. And here I have to, at the end, to put some fillers or units as a fillers to arrive to the 1850 points. So starting with the HQ, I think I will use an Archon plus Agonizer, Shadowfield, Webway Portal, and Haywire grenades. So I want an Archon that is resilient and can be the shield for a key unit that he's in. So this I put the Shadowfield. I also want him to be quite good in close combat, and I prefer the Agonizer. Here we can do between the Agonizer and the Hulk's Blade. I still like the Agonizer. You have 4+ all the battle, but I think it's good enough, and you can even wound a monstrous creature. So this Archon, if it's lucky with the Webway Portal, can hold a combat with any Demon Prince. And then I take an Archon Cort of 2 Lhamaeans and 2 Medusines. So why I take this Archon Cort first is this opens the possibility to do double detachment by having two HQs, and it's quite cheap. So the 2 Lhamaeans are there just to protect the 2 Medusines, and if it's needed, I can put the Archon here with the Webway Portal. I can teleport the Archon where it's needed and use the Medusines to disseminate an enemy unit. For example, especially if you want to do damage on Devastators that are hiding in the back or similar units. But if you play against God, for example, you can use the Medusines just to destroy the Lutas together with the Archon. So this what I will use as HQ, and at this point I leave the Archon flexible, so I will attach him to the unit I think it's more relevant in each battle. For example, if I need the Medusines to do damage, I will attach him to the Medusines and do the deep strike. But you will see that there are other units where the Archon can go, and the choice will depend on what you have in front. And I think you always want to give or leave some flexibility to your army to be able to adapt to the enemy you have in front. Next is the core of my army, the troops. And here I use 2 units of 10 Kabalytes with Dark Lance, that is 90 points each unit, and 3 units of 5 Kabalytes with blasters. I want to have a good amount of units in troops. Especially here, I still keep open the possibility to play the standard detachment or detachment that gives extra fast attacks and give the bonification on the night fighting. So I use 2 units of 10 Kabalytes because I don't have more blasters in between with Kabalytes. So this is why I do this split: 2 units of 10 and 3 units of 5. The objective of this unit is to hold objective and use the blaster of the Dark Lancers to do damage to the vehicles, and the unit of 10 also can do damage to infantry or even to monstrous creatures, because the splinters are quite good against infantry and even monstrous creatures. So 5 flexible units can be used to hold objective The two with the lances can stay at the back, and they can give some shooting at this support in shooting. Then in elites, I would like to take the Mandrakes, and I think here I will use 5 Mandrakes, 60 points. I think it's very cheap for a unit that will have most of the time 2+ cover save. And then I will have, I want to add a unit of 6 Incubi with a Klavex by 130 points. This is the other unit that I can put the Archon in. And the idea here is, in case I have to go and neutralize a unit that have high armor like Terminators or Centurions, and the Incubi can do well this job, while the Archon is protecting them from the shooting and minimizing the casualties before they enter in combat. In fast attack, I see based on my miniatures, I will use 2 units. One is a unit of 6 Ravers with 2 blasters, 2 Clartrop, Arena Champion, and Agonizer. This is a fast unit. I will use this to hostigate maybe the flanks, to hostigate light vehicles, and do damage with the blasters, and then with the cluster Clartrop you can finalize the vehicle. You also can try to assault other infantry units. You will do quite a good damage, and then in case you finalize you get stuck in close combat, you can jump. You have to take into account normally Dark Eldar cannot be long in close combat with other units because you will start receiving casualties and you don't have a very good resistance. So most likely you want to use this and to eliminate the unit once you assault. Then a unit of 5 Scourges with 1 Haywire blaster, 1 Hill Lance, and then the Solar with Blast Pistol Agonizer. Why this equipment? Because it's what I paint and what I assemble. If I will choose today, I will do 5 Scourges with 4 Haywire blasters or 4 Hill Lances. But this is what I have assembled, so, and I think you need to put, if I only have 1 Haywire blaster and 1 Hill Lance, I need to add the Solar with the Blast Pistol, at least to have 3 anti-tank weapons, because for me the function of the Scourges today is try to be a deep strike or by the high movement to kill enemy vehicles, because you don't have the witches now. So you need the Scourges, I think, will do the function of what the witches used to do, and use the Haywire blasters to eliminate vehicles. Then these 3 vehicles, and this depends, if I play double detachment, they can be used also as a fast attack. And if you keep them as fast attack, then you have the flexibility that these transports can be used by any unit in your army. And I think this is the best way to use it. So you can have 2 riders with Night Shields and Dark Lance, 75 points each, and 1 Venom with Splinter Cannon. And I use these vehicles because are the ones that I have, and are the ones I painted. Yeah, it's a shame that I only have 1 Venom, but I was not used, or I didn't play Venom Span in the past. And I don't think I will play Venom Span in the future, although you will see the next list is have 4 Venoms. I don't know if I will start investing in Venoms. Is not maybe 1 more or 2 more, but I'm not in the mood or in the way to do a Venom spam. So again, these vehicles clear function, and the riders can be the transport for the Incubi, or can be the transport for the 10 Kabalyte warriors. Venom can transport the units of 5. You can even transport the Mandrakes if you want, but I don't see the need. And also the Venom can transport the Archon if you need. So I will leave them, I think, most likely as a fast attack, do double detachment because they have 2 HQs, and in that way I will keep the flexibility up to the last minute. And then finally, in heavy support, I will use 3 Ravagers with Night Shield and Dark Lance, and 1 Ravager with Night Shield. And as you can see here, I have to double detachment because I have 4 heavy supports. Why I use Ravagers? Because I have these 4. Indeed, one of these is the all rider from as double bake, but I will reuse it as a Ravager. So in that way, I have 3 Ravagers with Dark Lancers and 1 Ravager with and disintegrators and all with night shields. So they are clearly the anti-tank and the last one, the anti-heavy infantry vehicles. They have to be. I will use them in cover. Try to maximize the cover on the battlefield and use them as to hunt other vehicles. So as you see, the army is mainly based on shooting. Most of the units are shooting units, and then I will have a couple of units that can go into close combat, that are the Reavers and the Incubis. So the idea here is use the shooting, try to eliminate the enemy in the shooting, and then finalize it if it's needed with the Incubis or the Reavers in close combat. But the main purpose of this army is shooting. And I think today in 6th and 7th edition, the shooting is slightly more advantageous than going to the close combat, especially in a codex where we don't have a lot of plasma grenades. And the unit with plasma grenades, the witches, know that cannot have the Haywire grenades, are not as good as used to be before. Of course, you can also substitute in that at least the Incubis with the witches plus the Agonizer. So I will still maybe playing the witches from time to time. I need to try to see how they perform. This is a very theoretical list, but I think it's quite a solid list. And in the way I used to play in the past is how I adapt my list to the 7th edition. The problems I see on that one is I don't have any anti-fly, and I think this next thing I need to invest in that army is some anti-fly power, and I think for that most likely I will go for the Razor Wing. So this is the army based on the miniatures I have. I don't have any flyer. Why this is not any flyer in the list. And now I will pass to how this list can evolve, or how we can start making a list if I don't have the limitations on the miniatures that I have available. So as I said, the previous list was 1,850 points, and now we go to the other list. So in this new proposal, I'm looking to have only one HQ, and this is an Archon with Agonizer, Shadowfield, Haywire grenades, and the Wetbait Portal. And I think it's a flexible Archon that you can use in different units, can be put in the Scourges to avoid the scattering when deep strike. I create some close combat units to put him. You have many possibilities, and I think the Archon, for me, the big advantage of the Archon versus the Succubus, although the Archon have not the IP2 weapon, on the other side have the Shadow Field, and this gives a lot of protection to the unit. And in an army where you don't have anything that have good protection or resilience, you don't have normally AP, you don't have armor 2 or very limited armor 3 on in the Incubis, you depend a lot on the covers. You like to have a unit that can resist a little bit more than the others, and I think the Archon is doing very well this role. Of course, one drawback you will see in that list is that the Archon will be exposed in most of the battles, so you have to be prepared to give the Slime the Warlord point. And I think the Dark Eldar should be based in doing more damage than the enemy, not trying to avoid the damage. So my philosophy is try to do as much as damage and go for the objective and make more points than your enemy, and don't be too concerned if the enemy is taking points from your army, especially when you have units in your army that are very cheap and are very easy to kill, like the Venoms, like the Kabalyte warriors. So it's so easy to kill a Dark Eldar army that it's in kill points you have a big disadvantage if you play kill points, and you can give very easily the first blood, so you have to be fast in taking the first blood from your enemy. If you have second turn, this is making more difficult, and also in the Slaying the Warlord, it's quite difficult to avoid that your Warlord is slain, because normally you will like to use him very actively in the battle. Then in this case, as you see, and as troops, I will use 4 units of 5 Kabalyte warriors with blasters, and I will use 4 Venoms as they can transport for them. That way I have 4 units very mobile that have a very good anti-infantry shooting and have a very anti anti-vehicle. The problem, the vehicle is a paper, so it will be destroyed very easily. So you have to use the cover. You have to try to avoid to be in the middle of the shooting of your enemy. Try to play with the distances to avoid that you receive a lot of fire in return. So there is a lot of things that you need to be careful when you play this type of units. But you can expect that maybe at the end of the battle you don't have any of these 4 units of vehicles. So, but I think this giving mobility, the blasters plus the splinter cannons can give a very good anti-infantry, anti-vehicle shooting, making them very flexible. Fast attack, as you see here, is how I see the Scourges. Units of 5 with 4 Haywire blasters, or you can use also the hit lances. I like to use the Haywire blasters because if you did strike them in range with 2+ to make glancings to the enemy vehicles, you almost ensure that you will kill 3 hull points when you do the fast attack. You have to take into account these Scourges are going to be suicide units. So you have 120 points that most likely will do 1 round of shooting and will die, unless you use them in a flank where the enemy have very little presence. But if you want to use them as a key anti-vehicle, and I think you should have redundancy in case one unit is not killing the enemy vehicle, at least the second one can finalize the job. So the main function is to kill this tank or to kill the tanks that can do damage to your army. And they can go in deep strike or not, depending what is the army you're facing. For example, if I'm facing an army that have a land rider with terminators in that wants to move fast into your lines, maybe I will not deep strike the Scourges. I will keep them in the battlefield in turn 1. I will try to move into range, shoot the 8 Haywire blasters into the land rider, and most likely you will kill the land rider, or you will almost kill that with the support of some Dark Lances or blasters from the other units. So depending a lot, if you want to hunt a tank that is in the backwards of your enemy, that is shooting from a position that is very difficult for you to reach, maybe it's the moment to deep strike. So it will depend a lot on the army you're facing. If you're facing Marines with Land Riders, I will put him on the battlefield. I'll put them in the battlefield daily. If you are facing Imperial Guard or something like that, maybe I will keep them in reserve and do deep strike. Then, of course, in fast attack, I will use also 2 Razor Wings. Clear function for them is first hunt the flyers of the enemy, and then if they are not flyers, with the 2 Dark Lances. These are Razor Wings with, sorry, I didn't put here, are with Dark Lances and the Night Shield, this way costing 155 points each. So the function is first hunt enemy flyers, second hunt enemy vehicles. With the movement you have, you should be able to hostigate from the flanks and try to go for some side armor, although with the lances getting side armor is not as important as in other weapons. So these are my choices for fast attack. Now we go to the elites. In elites you see 2 units of 5 Mandrakes. Hold objective, this is the only purpose for them. Hold objective, very difficult to kill, especially at the end turn. You have to be careful because you will have fearless, so you cannot go to ground. So the Mandrakes will be the only one that will be very difficult to kill in cover, because they will have the 3+ on cover, so meaning any cover will go easily to 2+. And then here you see, in that case I use a unit of 5 Godrex with Aberration and Electrocorrosive Whip. I'm looking on that unit. Maybe you can use Incubis in place. Here it's just a proposal. No, I will use Incubis because I don't have Grotesque. But I think this unit, if you deep strike them, or you use a rider to transfer them. But I think this one can also, you can put the Archon and Deep Strike them, can be a big thing for your enemy. So if your enemy have 5 Gotex at the backward that can damage any unit or can threat any unit that he have on the backward, he will need to deal with them, and then this will give some fresh air to the rest of the army. So the purpose of this is to create confusion on the enemy lines and try to do the maximum damage until they die. 5 aberrations, 3 wounds, toughness 5. If you put inside your Archon with the 2+ invulnerable save, are going to be very difficult to kill. And the Electrocorrosive whip is giving to the aberration AP3 and most likely repeat the wound because it's poison 5+. So meaning that when you hit, if you have higher strength, you will repeat the wound. So I want to check this unit. I think it can be very strong, but you need to, this unit, the main problem I have is the goddess have only leadership 3 if I'm not wrong. So you need to put inside most likely the Archon. And this is one of the winners of this list that is forcing you to put the Archon in that unit. And you lose some flexibility, because if you lose 2 Godex, then they will start running out of the battlefield and you lose a lot of points. If you don't want to have the Archon at, here in or to be obliged to be in that unit, then you will need to change this unit by Incubis or other units that can. I like to have a 1 or 2 strong units that can do close combat, because you always need to deal in close combat, and I think also to be able to counterattack in case it's needed. Then in that case, the heavy support is much lower because I already have 2 anti-tank vehicles in fast attack, and I will use 1 Ravager with Night Shields and 3 Dark Lancers, and then I use another Ravager with the only the Night Shield. I think the Disintegrator is still very good to damage Terminators. And if you have a lot of Terminators in your meta, or your enemy normally, or your opponent normally is playing Terminators, I think having a Ravager with Disintegrators is helping a lot. It's better than the Dark Lancers when you are fighting Terminators or Space Marines. In that case, I didn't complete the 1850 points. The reason is, here I will leave it open, and then you can complete on what is needed. You can take the Grotesque and put 2 units of Incubis, and then you compensate the points here. It's missing 70 points, so you can add another rider. You can add a rider, or you can add for the Grotesque, or you can add a very cheap Homunculus, and then you put them in the Grotesque, and you have then the flexibility on the Archon, and it's not obliged to go inside of the Grotesque. Yeah, I think maybe I will invest these points in a very cheap Archon Homunculus, just to be put inside of the units of Grotesque. And in that way you protect this unit. This list is planned to using the new flowchart from the Codex, where you have 6 fast attacks. If not, if you put the Homunculus, then it's also working, because you will have 2 HQs, and then you need to split into detachments. I cannot use here. You see, I don't use the new supplement that is the Homunculus Covens. So that's all. So as you can see, and here is a philosophy that I do when I do my armies. I try to see how I can adapt my army without doing an investment, and I've been doing that from 3rd edition. So I encourage you, before starting to buy new miniatures or new toys, I normally take my pace. I go slowly. As you see, just recently I paint the Helldrake for my Chaos Armors. So I try not to go into this race of buying new miniatures. Maybe I'm not a very competitive player, but I try to do my best with the units I have available for my army, and see how I can adapt my units and my way of playing to the new codex. So that's all what I want to show in that video. Please, any criticism on this list is welcome. Will help me in being stronger on Dark Eldar. So please, I will like any advice from your side, any comment that you want to add to my list, or what you will change in my list. or how you see this list. You see this list is completely crap. Please let me know. I'm not. I'm. Can be that it's completely crap and I'm mistaken completely in the concept, or if you see something that you think that are interesting, please also let me know what you think is interesting and what you think is not interesting on that list, on how you will do differently for Dark Eldar. So that's all. Thanks a lot for watching this video and see you again later. Bye.